December 12, 1944, 06:45 a.m., Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The cold hits like a fist, frost cracks under boots, pines shiver in the icy wind, and snowflakes swirl like ghosts through the fog-shrouded valleys. A distant rumble, trucks, tanks, you can't tell yet. Soldiers huddle in foxholes, rifles clutched, breath steaming in the air, each exhale a silent prayer. Far from the front lines, in a heated tent somewhere near Verdun, General George S. Patton leans over a crude map, his gloved finger tracing the German supply routes with an almost obsessive intensity. He doesn't glance at the clock, but he knows time is slipping faster than anyone realizes. Intelligence reports have been quiet, too quiet. The Allies assume the Wehrmacht is scattered, low on fuel, demoralized. But Patton's gut, honed from years of maneuver warfare, screams the opposite. He studies rail lines, fuel depots, and troop concentrations. His mind assembles the puzzle pieces, fresh panzer divisions in hiding, snow-obscured roads, and the unrelenting German discipline. They're not retreating, he mutters under his breath. They're preparing. Meanwhile, across the channel in SHAEF headquarters, Eisenhower sips his morning coffee. The room is warm, bright, orderly. Maps are pinned, reports filed. Everyone talks about winter patrols, scattered skirmishes, a large-scale attack. Impossible, mutters one colonel, shuffling papers. Confidence hangs like a thin veneer over the room. No one knows Patton is already seeing through it. Patton's aides glance nervously at him. "Sir, are you sure?" Patton's eyes are steel. "I've faced Rommel. I've faced the Germans in North Africa and France. I know what they're capable of when they're desperate. And they're desperate." He begins issuing preliminary orders, armor forward, artillery prepped, supply lines reinforced. It's subtle, almost invisible on paper. Too few would notice, but too late would be fatal. Outside in the Ardennes, a scout returns, breathless. Movement, sir, large columns heading west, radio silence. They're coming. Patton doesn't flinch. He looks up, almost smiling at the confirmation, but it's a grim smile. The storm he predicted is about to hit, and the Allies, so far away in their warm rooms, will be caught off guard. December 13, 1944, 03:00 a.m., SHAEF headquarters, Reims, France. The lights burn too brightly in the command room, reflecting off maps dotted with colored pins and hastily scribbled notes. Eisenhower leans over a table, eyes narrowing at the latest intelligence reports. Nothing screams alarm. Nothing predicts catastrophe. Just scattered German movements, small probing attacks. His generals chatter politely about patrols and winter logistics, unaware that a storm is forming just beyond the tree line. Back in the Ardennes, the forest is alive with whispers of engines and the crunch of tracks over frozen mud. German panzer columns, their black silhouettes nearly invisible against the snow, inch forward. Soldiers huddle inside their tanks, machine guns iced over, the roar of engines mingling with the wind. It's a quiet menace, almost imperceptible. Yet Patton, staring at the map, sees it clearly. The start of a counteroffensive that could rip a hole straight through the Allied lines. His aides shift uneasily. "Sir, this is unconfirmed. The intelligence isn't solid." Patton slams a hand on the table. "That's the point. You don't wait for confirmation when the German army is about to move. By the time the reports arrive, it'll be too late. Too late for thousands of men." Orders flow out quietly, almost invisible. Armored units repositioned closer to potential breach points. Artillery pre-targeted on likely avenues of attack. Supply caches rerouted to secure lines. It's meticulous, preemptive, almost prophetic. The room feels tense, as if even the shadows are holding their breath. Meanwhile, Eisenhower paces behind his desk, hands behind his back. He's the calm center, the image of control, but Patton's predictions, filtered through whispered radio messages, begin to gnaw at him. Could one general see what all of SHAEF could not? Could Patton's instincts avert disaster, or is this a false alarm? Outside, the first shellfire cracks through the silent forest. echoing like a gunshot through the trees. Soldiers awake with a jolt, rifles clutched, hearts hammering. The quiet skepticism of headquarters will soon collide with the reality on the ground. Patton, watching through frost-streaked binoculars, doesn't flinch. He's been here before. He knows what comes next, and it's worse than anyone imagines. December 14, 1944, 05:30 a.m. Northern Ardennes, Belgium. The forest seems alive, not with birdsong but with the mechanical growl of over 1,000 German vehicles. Snow-covered roads shudder under the weight of armored columns. Panzer IVs and King Tigers roll through frozen mud, their tracks carving scars into the landscape. Inside each tank, the crews are silent, faces pale beneath helmets, knowing the risk of Allied artillery but driven by orders from a command desperate to break the line. Patton stands on a ridge overlooking the valley, binoculars pressed to his eyes. Smoke curls from distant chimneys, villages tucked under white blankets. He notes the unusual traffic patterns, the precision timing, the roads cleared with almost surgical efficiency. Every instinct screams, this is not a retreat. This is a full-scale counterattack. At the same time, Eisenhower receives the first unsettling radio intercepts. They are fragmentary, incomplete, almost meaningless to anyone but the trained eye. Maps are updated, officers murmur, analysts argue over interpretations. Yet the sense of unease grows, a slow-burning alarm. Patton, miles away, already knows the critical points where the Germans will attempt their breakthrough. He begins redirecting divisions. 3rd Army armored units to the north, artillery repositioned along critical choke points, supply convoys rerouted to avoid disruption. A young lieutenant, shivering in the snow, approaches Patton. "Sir, they're moving faster than we thought. Entire battalions in the wrong place. Could we be too late?" Patton lowers the binoculars, his eyes hard as flint. "Lieutenant, it's never too late if you act before they reach the heart of the line. That's the difference between a maneuver and a massacre." In Reims, Eisenhower paces the war room, the room suddenly feeling smaller, air heavier. His mind races. Could the Ardennes counterattack sweep away months of preparation? Could Patton's predictions really be the only thing keeping the Allies from catastrophe? A cold, sinking realization begins to take hold. This is bigger than anyone imagined, and the fate of thousands hangs on the decisions of a single man. Outside, the first German shells tear into villages along the Meuse. Wooden beams snap, windows shatter. And the wind carries the echoes of chaos through the frozen forest. Patton's jaw tightens. The gamble begins. December 15, 1944, 09:00 a.m. Bastogne, Belgium. The town is surrounded, frozen, silent except for the distant thrum of tanks and the occasional crack of artillery. Snow piles against the walls, frosting over streets already littered with abandoned vehicles and scattered supplies. American soldiers, weary and cold, dig foxholes, their faces etched with exhaustion and anxiety. Rumors of German encirclement spread like wildfire. Bastogne feels like a trap, a pressure cooker about to explode. Patton, miles away at his forward command post, studies the shifting lines on his map. He knows every likely avenue of attack, every choke point the Germans will exploit. He doesn't need a full intelligence briefing. His experience tells him where the enemy will strike hardest. With a series of precise orders, he begins to redirect the 4th Armored Division, the Ghost Division, to push west and relieve Bastogne before the German pincers can close. Supplies are rerouted along Snowden roads. Artillery is pre-registered on likely German assembly areas. At SHAEF headquarters, Eisenhower watches the first reports trickle in from Patton's units. Panic flares briefly in the room as officers read fragmented radio messages. Heavy German forces advancing, supply lines cut towns under threat, his heart pounds. For a moment, he feels the terrifying weight of inevitability. Millions of men, months of planning, could be undone by a single German thrust. But then a report comes in. Patton's armored columns are moving faster than expected, cutting across icy roads with almost impossible speed. Tanks crunch through snow, artillery pieces rumble forward, and supply convoys follow with near-miraculous precision. The unexpected speed begins to blunt the German advance. Eisenhower exhales, relief and disbelief mixing in equal measure. "By God, he might just pull this off," one aide whispers. The room, tense for hours, feels a fragile shift. One man's foresight, one general's relentless drive might have prevented a disaster that could have rewritten the final months of the war. Yet even as the columns push forward, the Ardennes is far from secure. German artillery still pounds villages. Panzer divisions maneuver with deadly precision. Patton knows that speed is not enough. Timing, coordination, and courage will decide whether the Allies survive the coming days or are trapped in a nightmare of their own making. The first critical clash is coming, and no one, not even Eisenhower, can yet see the full scope of what is about to unfold. December 16, 1944, 07:00 a.m., Northern Ardennes, Belgium. A low, gray dawn blankets the forest. You can almost feel the cold biting through wool and leather. The ground trembles beneath armored treads, distant explosions rattling windows in scattered villages. German artillery fires with deadly rhythm, targeting roads, bridges, and supply lines, trying to halt the inexorable advance of Patton's Third Army. Soldiers clutch rifles and helmets, their breath steaming in the icy air, eyes darting through the white haze, waiting for the next strike. Patton's voice cuts through the radio static, calm but commanding. "Push through, don't stop for anything. The line must hold. The men at Bastogne are counting on us." His orders are precise, almost surgical. Tank units paired with infantry, artillery preloaded with high-explosive rounds, engineers clearing snow and debris at impossible speed. Every move anticipates German counters. Every decision is a race against time. Meanwhile, Eisenhower receives intermittent updates from his forward liaison officers. Panic flares and ebbs as reports are verified. The German advance is faster and more brutal than anyone anticipated. Entire towns are caught in crossfire. Supplies are threatened. Casualties mount. And yet, Patton's forces are advancing with an efficiency that seems almost unnatural. Inside the command tent, Patton's aides work furiously, marking troop positions and enemy movements on maps. A young officer hesitates. "Sir, if they break through here, Bastogne falls. Thousands could be trapped." Patton's eyes are steel, unwavering. "Then we make sure they don't." Outside, German tanks are sighted on the horizon, their silhouettes stark against the snow. Machine guns chatter. Artillery erupts. The first real engagement begins, a deadly dance of steel, fire, and ice. Patton watches, calculating. Every second counts. Every maneuver could mean the difference between holding the line or losing the war's momentum in the West. Somewhere deep inside, Eisenhower feels a chill that isn't from the winter. This is the moment he has feared. The Ardennes could either crumble into disaster or be saved by one general's unmatched foresight. December 17, 1944, 02:00 p.m., Bastogne, Belgium. Snow falls in thick, suffocating sheets. The town is battered, buildings blackened by shellfire, streets littered with abandoned trucks and frozen bodies. Soldiers huddle behind rubble, rifles ready, faces pale and wet from frostbite. You can almost hear the despair, a low hum beneath the roar of artillery. The Germans press harder, encircling Bastogne with terrifying precision, confident they will strangle the Allied line. Patton, atop a ridge just west of the town, surveys the battlefield. His eyes scan every valley, every road, every ridge the enemy might exploit. His jaw is tight, his hands stained with snow and mud from endless map consultations and shouted orders. He knows what Eisenhower fears. If Bastogne falls, the entire Ardennes line could collapse, opening the way to Antwerp and possibly changing the course of the war. Radio crackles, bringing fragmented updates. The 4th Armored Division has reached the edge of the forest. Engineers are clearing routes blocked by felled trees and destroyed bridges. Supplies, scarce and frozen, are arriving just in time. Patton issues a final set of orders, voice sharp. Keep moving. Don't wait for permission. Every minute counts. Lives depend on it. Back at SHAEF, Eisenhower reads the incoming messages. Relief battles with disbelief. Could it really be happening? One general's foresight is matching the Germans blow for blow. The Ardennes, once a looming nightmare, now has a fragile shield. A shield built on Patton's understanding of German tactics, his relentless drive, and his refusal to accept delay. But the battle is far from over. German forces are still strong, their tanks rumbling, their infantry relentless. Every maneuver, every decision could tip the balance. Patton's gamble is holding, but for how long? And will the Allies' luck and preparation be enough to turn what could have been a catastrophic encirclement into one of the most remarkable reversals of the war? December 18, 1944, 08:00 a.m., Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The wind cuts like a knife, carrying smoke, snow, and the acrid scent of burning timber. Tanks grind through icy roads, artillery fires thundering in synchronized rhythm. Patton's armored columns surge forward, the Ghost Division leading the push with near-miraculous precision. You can almost feel the tension in every soldier's heartbeat as they inch toward Bastogne, knowing the town's survival rests entirely on their advance. German commanders, confident just days earlier, glance at reports and maps in disbelief. Movements they expected to take days are being countered almost immediately. Units are repositioning faster than planned, their plans unraveling under a relentless American drive. Patton's foresight has turned the tide. What was meant to be an overwhelming German offensive is now colliding with unexpected resistance, slowing the enemy's momentum. In Bastogne, the 101st Airborne feels a flicker of hope. Supply drops, artillery coordination and communication lines, all aided by Patton's timely orders, keep them alive against the encircling Germans. Soldiers glance toward the horizon, seeing American tanks slicing through the snow, and a rare sense of relief spreads, even as shellfire shakes the frozen streets. Eisenhower watches reports come in, disbelief giving way to awe. He saw this coming, one aide whispers, and he acted before anyone else. The supreme Allied commander, who had feared the worst, now realizes that Patton's relentless drive and tactical genius may have prevented a disaster that could have rewritten the war's final months. Yet even as tanks rumble and artillery hammers forward, Patton knows the battle is not won. Every second counts. Every misstep could allow the Germans to regroup. The Ardennes remains a frozen crucible, and the coming hours will test every ounce of courage, foresight, and ingenuity the Allies have to offer. The counterattack has begun, but will it be enough to save the day or merely delay the inevitable? December 19, 1944, 11:30 a.m., SHAEF headquarters, Reims, France. The room is tense. Maps cover every surface, pins marking German advances, Allied positions, and critical choke points. Eisenhower sits rigid, staring at the flow of radio reports. For hours, the command staff had feared the worst, a catastrophic breach in the Ardennes that could unravel months of careful planning. Now, the reports tell a different story. Patton's forces are closing in on Bastogne, coordinating with the 101st Airborne. German units, expecting easy victories, are meeting resistance at every turn. Entire panzer divisions are stalled by well-timed artillery and armored counterattacks. Supplies are flowing, morale is holding, and the frozen forest is beginning to feel less like a trap and more like a battlefield that the Allies are mastering. Eisenhower leans back, the weight of realization settling over him. He had feared the Ardennes could become a disaster, yet one man, Patton, predicted the German moves before intelligence even confirmed them. The scope of his foresight is staggering. The only reason the Allied line holds, the only reason Bastogne has not fallen, is because of Patton's relentless anticipation, his audacious maneuvers, and his refusal to wait for confirmation. One aide, whispering almost awed, says, "Sir, he saved them." Eisenhower doesn't reply immediately. He simply stares at the maps, imagining the alternate reality where Patton's instincts hadn't guided the relief effort. Thousands of men trapped, cities lost, momentum shattered. Instead, the Ardennes counterattack is being blunted, a potentially catastrophic German gamble turned into a struggle that the Allies can survive. Meanwhile, in the Ardennes, Patton watches the snow-streaked battlefield, eyes sharp, jaw set. He knows the Germans are desperate and dangerous, but he also knows something few do. Foresight and speed can turn even a seemingly hopeless situation into a victory. The snow crunches under his boots as he issues the next set of orders. The war's outcome is still being decided in these frozen forests, but for the moment, one man has held the line against disaster. December 20th, 1944, 04:00 p.m. Bastogne, Belgium. The snow has stopped, leaving the battlefield a stark white canvas scarred with blackened tanks, shattered trees, and craters pocked across frozen roads. American soldiers, exhausted, scrape frost from their faces and shoulders, rifles clutched like lifelines. Tanks roll through the streets, artillery booms in distant bursts, and the faint cheer of troops signals small victories. Bastogne has held, against overwhelming odds. Patton surveys the town from a nearby ridge, binoculars trained on the horizon. He watches as German columns, slowed and battered, are forced to retreat or regroup. His prediction, once dismissed by others, has proven deadly accurate. The Ardennes counteroffensive is faltering, not because the Allies were lucky, but because one general anticipated every move before it happened. Back at SHAEF, Eisenhower sits quietly, reading detailed reports. He had feared disaster, imagined worst-case scenarios that could have reshaped the final months of the war. And yet here it is. The line has held. The Ardennes, poised to become a nightmare, has been tamed through speed, insight, and audacious action. One man's foresight, combined with relentless execution, has prevented catastrophe. A whispered comment circulates the room. He did what no one else could. Patton, now reviewing maps and dispatches, allows a rare moment of satisfaction, though there is no time to linger. The battle is not fully won. The Germans are retreating, but pockets of resistance remain. He knows the next few days will test every ounce of Allied coordination and courage. For Eisenhower and his staff, the lesson is searing. Brilliance in war is not always measured by numbers or intelligence reports. It is measured by vision, decisiveness, and the courage to act before the storm hits. Patton's prediction didn't just save Bastogne. It saved momentum, it saved lives, and it preserved the Allies' chance to end the war on their terms. As the sun sets behind the Ardennes ridges, casting long shadows over the snow, one truth is undeniable. History remembers not just the battles, but the men who saw them before they arrived. Patton, in the frozen forests of Belgium, has just proven why he was feared, and ultimately revered, by friend and foe alike. End